begin, and let me be the first to say welcome to our webinar. Okay, I know what needs improvement, now what? I'm Dr. Sherry Popp, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Weave's Director of Professional Development, and I'm really excited about this webinar today, a topic that's really close to my heart as a lifelong educator and someone who has worked in assessment and seen the power of using assessment data to really address student learning and improve student learning on campus. I have a couple of quick housekeeping items for us. First, the perennial question, will this session be recorded? Yes, it will. And as a registered participant, you will receive that recording a few days after our webinar. We will be using the chat for a lot of interaction today, so feel free to go ahead. As a matter of fact, there'll be a couple of questions for you to answer in there in just a minute. Go ahead and engage in that chat, and then towards the end of the session, we will have some Q&A time. So we'll use that Q&A kind of for wrap-up questions, and we'll let you know when the time comes for that. Finally, and I'll remind you of this at the end, your feedback really shapes what we do here at Weave, and we appreciate your feedback. And so to that end, you'll receive a survey at the close of the webinar, and we would appreciate you taking the few minutes to fill that out. So with that said, I would like to take a few minutes to introduce our speaker. Since 2013, Dr. Stephen Biscotti has supported and managed all the Pathways to General Education program at Virginia Tech. He has given keynote, plenary, and concurrent sessions, as well as facilitated workshops on such gen ed related topics as innovative structures, university reform efforts, and program evaluation, both locally and nationally. Dr. Biscotti also serves on the Council for the Association for General and Liberal Studies and is a co-principal investigator on an NSF Cultivating Cultures of Ethics and STEM grant. And I think I should get credit for getting that all out without stumbling over the words. So prior to his role at Virginia Tech for 10 years, Biscotti taught high school courses in anatomy and physiology, biology, and physical science in Roanoke, Virginia, and Columbia, South Carolina. Biscotti received bachelor's degree in biology from James Madison University, a master's degree in curriculum and instruction, science education, and a PhD in curriculum and instruction, educational psychology, both from Virginia Tech. So without further ado, and with a lot of excitement, I'm going to hand it off to our presenter for today. And I'm really excited to learn from him as he takes us through this webinar on learning improvement.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Can you hear me, Sherry? Yep. Perfect.
Yes, we can.
Excellent. Let's dive right in. So as Sherry said, longtime educator, and just, and lately dealing with, working and supporting general education has led me into the world of assessment and educational research, and kind of this is where all of that meets. How do we use the stuff we do, the assessment work we do to improve where I think rubber hits the road, which is teaching and learning in the classroom. So in this session that you're joining, engage with a case study focused on a common program review data point, be introduced to or reacquainted with the Understanding by Design framework. So don't worry if you're quite familiar with this or not at all. This is a tool we'll work with today. And then we'll try it out and show how some simple tools that are out there, some questions, some prompts can help you take that next big step in helping people improve learning in the classroom. So the goals, hopefully, with what we do here will help you help your colleagues take that first step. Gives you one tool, there's many out there, to guide that assistance, to kind of get a key mindset in approaching this work. And there's a lot of interactive ways we'll do that today. And by the end, you'll probably be sick of hearing the words alignment and ask the right questions. So that's kind of the hope of the session. So first, introductions. I see there's 101 people participating right now. I think we had over 250 registered. I will not ask each person to unmute and introduce yourself. Instead, in the chat, with commas, so you can submit, please note all panelists, to click on all panelists and attendees, name, institution, and favorite song. I'm going to put Stephen Biscotti, Virginia Tech. Favorite song? Under Pressure. It's kind of an all-time. Not because I'm feeling that way now or anything, just one of my all-times. Oh, excellent. Some Kate Bush, some AC/DC. We Will Survive. That's kind of the assessment work, and especially in May, June. That's kind of what we're singing, right? Oh, that's funny. Someone actually used Learning to Fly was on my was playing like 10 minutes ago on my Amazon Music playlist. Ooh, Dolls. I like that one a lot. Wow, this is great. So, of course, building rapport with attendees, just like we would do with our students. It turns out our students are people. They are humans with likes and desires, and there's things that can connect us. A lot of folks use food. I use music as something I'm really passionate about. It looks like, and we are spread all over the place. I'm seeing lots of good, I see some cool Virginia school shout outs. Excellent. Spread out all over the place. I wonder if all 50 states are represented. That would be cool. But this is great. We're coming together to talk about, to answer the question Sherry presented. That was the title I came up with, was basically that. We come together and go, okay, we're doing assessment, now what? So at this time, Sherry, I believe, can post a Zoom poll. So we can, what is your role at the institution? Oh, good, I can see so you're viewing the question, what's your role? So you can fill out that poll. I see institutional effectiveness, assessment, faculty, student affairs, program director, dean, department head. So those are your options.
And I think I have this set so folks could select more than one. So if they're in dual roles, you're kind of seeing that reflected in the responses that they're given there. So we'll leave it open for just another second and then end that poll. That's great. I assume there's multiple on this call that could select all of the above plus other duties as assigned. I believe it's like, well, I do all these things. Good. So it looked like most people voted, and we'll go ahead and end that. Excellent. Thank you. So a couple, one, I'm going to be very explicit. I do a lot of think aloud. I teach ed psych, so there's plenty of think aloud, which is I'm trying to be interactive, even in a large group. So I'm going to hit stop share result. So I see most assessment director coordinator is about 45%, but also institutional effectiveness, got some department heads, some program directors, faculty, student affairs, and other. I think I would actually fall into that category as director of gen ed, so curricular director. And I teach grad classes for ed psych at night. So I do keep my teaching chops alive. Well, welcome. Thank you for being here. Let's jump right in. So we've got a case. So you were sent by email if you signed up. Don't worry if you did not. I'm about to put it in the chat as quickly as I can. You should have gotten 2 items. And again, if you did not, no problem. They're about to appear in the chat for you. One, anyone with the link? One is the Understanding by Design template. We're simply going to use that. So it is now file sharing in the chat. I hope you can see it and download it there. This is going to be a tool. This is a tool to guide our questioning today, to guide hopefully you in the future as something in your toolkit when someone asks that question. All right, I know what we want to do. I know what's not working. I know what needs to be improved. Now, what do we do? That this tool might help do that. All you really need to do is download it and just have it. Yes, you will see the slide deck in just a second. It's doing this weird. I'm just file sharing. And then there's one more, which is going to be a sample biology. As Sherry mentioned, I was a biology undergrad. And so I picked a random biology syllabus offline, Googling
biology syllabus. So it is now in the chat as well. So this is the case we're going to use. So you should see intro biology sample syllabus example. This is not a bad syllabus. It's not something we're picking on. If this has happened before at Tech when I'm doing a workshop and someone goes, wait a second, that's my syllabus. That's not what we're here to do. This is I saw it was back from '02 or something like that. It looks like a typical syllabus is what it looks like, just a typical one. But it's something for us to use as an example to guide us learning about the tool and learning how we can help someone take that next step. So just have those available. Thank you, Sharon. Yes, Jane Weaver was the one who came up with this at Weave University. I had a lot of fun creating this. So I hope y'all have as much fun engaging. But the idea is, here's a case, so this should sound familiar. So the biology department at WeaveU has completed a rigorous and illuminating 5-year program review. Here we focus on the biology major specific component. So data sort, so you've been through this, it's a 5-year review with the biology department. You've collected data from a variety of sources. You've got your surveys, you've got some indirect, some direct, you've got these external things, you've got these metrics you're looking at, paints a big picture of what's happening. And then with that data, you start to also talk about what improvements you've made against since last time, 5 years ago. Increase the diversity of the students in the major. You've improved group project in the upper level capstone course. So that was something you really wanted to work on last time. And integrated the global perspectives throughout the courses. Okay, so these are things that you've improved on. Congratulations, biology department has improved on, they've had continuous improvement in their program. And then they've also, by collecting all of this, by going through this, that of course the biology department was so happy it was their 5-year review time. They were thrilled they were on the docket. They also identified some things they'd like to work on. Some of those concerns were kind of course level, some were program level, and a little larger between courses. Some were instructor specific. Some was peer benchmarking. They started to, they were comparing to, oh my gosh, what is that school doing? How do we do that? They're getting out ahead of us. What's going on? And then some might be retention. So again, back to those metrics and things you're looking for to identify. So this is where we go, drop the mic, our job here is done. See you in 5 years. Good luck. You've identified your concerns, good luck. What if, but then they look at you and they go, I know, but we've identified the areas of concern. We know what needs improvement. Now what? If you have a Center for Excellence of Teaching and Learning, if you have instructional designers, if you have, of course, within the department, there's expertise on the curriculum committees or folks that know this stuff. There's lots of places you can bring folks in and connect with folks around campus. Or there may not be any of those things and you checked all the boxes because you're a one-person show. Wouldn't it be great if you can take them at least to the first step? No matter what, at least you could go, you know what? Let's keep talking. Let's help the continuous improvement. So here's one key takeaway that came from their work that the bio folks want to talk more about. There's a bunch, but here's one. In end of course evaluations for the intro biology course, students repeatedly cite they feel unprepared for and fail the tests no matter how much they study. Have ever heard that one before? Again, bio major. So I believe I said that on course reviews many years ago. That was pulled from the biology department, and they're kind of looking at you going, what do? We know that's something we want to improve on. This has been year after year. We're at wit's end. Help us get started. So first thought, best thought in the chat. What do you tell the instructor? What are some suggestions you give to the instructor to fix this? So again, end of course evals for intro biology. They cite they feel unprepared for and fail the test no matter how much they study. First thought, best thought. What would you tell the instructor to do? Good. So I see Some good calls for formative assessment. Oh, yep, some study guides, perhaps. Some of you are ahead of me. That's great. Some of you are too smart for this. You knew not to look at the open-ended comments and maybe dig a little deeper. Review sessions, possibly, you know, getting to that idea of, okay, maybe there's something going on with preparation. So all sorts of support. So perhaps, so I see some are going to kind of the supports. Others are going, hey, take a look at your course. Jumping right to suggestions. Okay, so we'll stop there. Excellent, thank you. Oh, exit tickets. Yep, always use those to make sure you're, again, those formative assessments. Well, that was a trap. So as Admiral Akbar would say, you know, it's a trap. That I even have a really hard time not going right to that. Oh yeah, let's get right down into business. Let's talk about how that course can improve. Here's some things that'll help. So please, your ideas will probably come out. Those are probably all, I see tons of good ideas there that are going to help improve on that. But what if that's, you know, what if you're still, again, you're trying to help them take that first step? First, so in the chat, what questions do you have about the context of the case? What are some questions? And so I see some already were mentioning, hold on, what are the objectives and what are the assignments? What else is happening in the course? So some of you are already kind of going to questions. So what questions in the chat, what questions do you have about the context of that, of the case and we're looking at here? Yeah, exactly. What's expected of the student at the end of the course? Exactly. Or what are the expectations? Great word. How big is the class? What's the prereq? Why are we only using the exam? Excellent. Now we're talking. So now we're getting to questions that can guide. These are prompts to help that biology department head, the biology instructor, the team, whoever it was you're working with, to unpack what's happening here and not just try to start fixing, right? You're exactly right. A study guide or supports or peer mentors, there's a million things that might help. Let's step back a second and first ask questions about the case. Being at what are the learning outcomes? Exactly. You know, first off, what are we trying to accomplish here? Whoops, sorry. What questions do you have about the key takeaway? Are there any more questions you have about that specific takeaway? So some of these are already there. What questions do you have about the context? What questions do you have about the key takeaway itself, if something different? And so that key takeaway is, in the end of course evals, they find they're unprepared for and fail the test no matter how much they study, right? Exactly right. So why are the exams on the lecture, but focus on the chapters? What, you know, what's happening in the class, right? And again, I see some referencing the syllabus. We'll get to that. That's going to be an activity we do together. You're exactly right. That's what we want to get out, and we start going, what are your objectives? Where are your SLOs? Is this happening across all sections, or is this just in one? How many are we talking about? Is this that one loud student who went, this is the worst class ever, and I study and study all 10 minutes and didn't do well on the exam? Or is this actually a representative piece of data? These are, so your assessment professionals, this is exactly the questions you can jump into to get started and help people go forward. And then you can really get into, so at the very end, we'll talk about a course I'm teaching on this for Weave in the summer that you can look at, where we really dig into going beyond just those first steps. How do you help them really go to make the kind of suggestions we were talking about before? How do you help them actually make improvement and go further than just, hey, what are the learning outcomes? So what should be the next steps before fixing it? This is where you think like an assessor. So this is, I'll be pulling quite a bit, Understanding by Design, which is Wiggins and McTighe. Again, classic kind of backwards design, a great course design framework. And if you think like an assessor, what you're used to doing, then you're asking the exact questions you're getting into. I'm a longtime teacher and professor. It's so easy to go, students aren't doing well on that exam. Let me fix it. Let me quickly make course adjustments and fix it right there, without stepping back with a bigger view and go, well, what are we trying to accomplish? What are the outcomes? What are the assessments? Is it all students or some students? These are the kind of questions that these tools can help illuminate. So the source material is Understanding by Design, Wiggins and McTighe. I'm going to reference enough, and you have the template that's available from their website. They do workshops, they have books, they have workbooks, lots of good materials. I'm going to keep it fairly simple here today because, again, it's a mindset and a framework and a place to start for the small webinar. Exactly. I love the questions that just keep coming. You're dead on. These are the questions we need to be asking. So Wiggins and McTighe kind of as a whole, this is what I find myself constantly fighting, which is this idea of the traditional versus the backwards. I call it backwards just because it's different than what we're used to. So traditional would be we look at that piece of evidence and we immediately start looking at the syllabus, we start looking at the topics, we start looking at the content. We develop the whole course built on content, built on chapters. So it's right lockstep with the textbook. It's very professor expertise centered. Here's the stuff I know. Here's the stuff I love. I will make sure that's in the course. There's hands-on activities. I'll talk about in a second of why that's not good or bad. There's just, okay, there's something hands-on. In this case, in biology, there's a lab. Okay. Does that lab match the lecture in any way? Does it support it? We'll get to that. And what you end with is an exhausted instructor and a hope they learn something, right? So we call it the hope curriculum. They talk about the throw spaghetti at the wall and something will stick. And if they're not learning it, I'll give them more stuff. I'll give them more study guides, more practice exams. I'll just hit them with more. So unfortunately, that's not ideal with a student-centered, a backwards approach, which we'll get into this, where it's backwards design, revise. We start with learning outcomes and goals. Again, think like an assessor, which y'all do. Start with the outcomes, start with the goals, start with the expectations, start with the big picture. We're going to introduce the material in alignment with the goals, not because it's in the textbook or because we've always done that. Chapter 7, yeah, we always do chapter 7, it's got to be in there. It's lockstep with learning outcomes, not, again, the exams or that's provided or the chapters. It's student needs centered. So we step back and go, what should students be getting in this class? In this biology class, what is it they actually need to know and do by the end? There's not just hands-on activities, there's also minds-on. So this is when I get on, I love it, hands-on, minds-on. What does it mean? It means as a former, again, STEM teacher and major, it doesn't just mean using your hands to mix stuff. That's not hands-on. Hands-on, minds-on would be I'm actually reflecting, I'm thinking about what that means, and I'm connecting it to the content and the material. This is, that's the shift with more backwards design. And then we end with exhausted students. They should be exhausted. All right. I know they're not super exhausted because my window overlooks the drill field and they're out playing Frisbee during finals week. And I go, okay, not this year's different, but in traditional year, look out and go, okay, they should be working a little harder here. I should see them working, not the poor professor walking to their car with mountains of paperwork and, with mountains of assignments and papers to read and review and grades are due and graduation's coming. They shouldn't be that exhausted that the students are out playing ultimate Frisbee or Quidditch. I watch on a drill field playing Quidditch. We should see them exhausted in a good way. They have worked, they have thought, they have done the work to meet the outcomes. And then we end with results, not hope, not ideally they're going to learn this stuff or I hope they appreciate this stuff, but it's results. They learned the things we hope they learned. And you can really measure that and actually design for that. So the backwards design in 3 steps is going to sound super familiar to you all, which is you first identify the results, then you determine the evidence that we'd know if they've met the results. So what do we want? Where do we want them at the end of this course? How would we know they've gotten there? And then we plan the learning experiences, instructions to follow that. Go figure, right? Now, where do the traditional would often start in number 3. And I did this when I was a teacher. I did this when I was a professor, which is here's the material, here's the syllabus that was handed me. Here's they typically do this assignment, they do this research paper, I'll just keep it going. And you start with the learning experience as an instruction. Or you say, well, I'm a large class, all I can do is lecture, or I'm an online class, this is the way I have to do my videos, as opposed to, well, first, should you even be doing those things? What is the best modality? What is the best teaching practice to get them to the outcomes? And so again, this makes sense to you, which is what's so great, is you already have this mindset. You're helping others come to this and think that way before diving down into a very minute piece of data. So it's all about questions. So as I said, you're going to be sick of hearing ask the right questions. This is where you get to be just like professors that frustrate the heck out of their students. They go, well, what do we do? How do we fix that students are having trouble with this? And you get to go, well, let me ask you something. And of course, they're just tell me what to do. What are the goals, outcomes, and essential questions? What are the enduring understandings? That's what Wiggins and McTighe. What are the things we want these students to achieve? What knowledge and skills should they obtain? That's the desired results. Now let's work from there. What's the acceptable evidence? How would we know they've reached those? It might not be the exact assessment you've been using. It might be something different. Because again, it depends on the verbs. As you assessment folks know, verbs are important. It's very important to look at those verbs and go, well, what does it mean to show you have that verb? Identify versus analyze versus synthesize. Those don't all end in the same assessment. Verbs are really important. And not just in, propose at the proposal phase. They're important throughout the course to come back and go, oh my gosh, am I leading these students where I hoped they were going? Are we going in the right direction? And then you plan the learning experiences. So that's when you step back, and now maybe the test is not even an issue. Maybe it's not that. Maybe the test is fine. It's the learning activities that lead to that. Maybe the evidence is good, but the activities aren't, or it could be something completely different. Maybe the activities are really good and they're leading to the results, but your measurement isn't. Again, think like an assessor. This is what we're helping people do. And again, I hope I don't sound like I'm preaching to the choir. Even the choir has to practice, as we say. But the hope is these are some tools and some prompts that can help you with your mindset to step back and go, I can help them get to step one of solving some of these, making some of these improvements they want to make. So again, the template, hopefully by this point, you've been able to download it. Thank you, Sherry, for helping out those who are having trouble. I'm not going to get into the details of this template. What I'm going to do is show you the big things in capital letters. That's kind of where we'll be spending some time today and again, in this very webinar format. So we're thinking about an example. That biology syllabus is an example. If the biology department said, we need help, students they're complaining about studying and not doing well on the tests. Well, let's start with your syllabus and let's start to try to, let's start with your course and start to try to really look at those essential questions and understandings. Okay, great. Now let's move to evidence. Great. Now let's move to the learning plan. So you have that. Have it handy. You could take some notes on and you use it. Nothing's turned in to me. I don't have time to grade it. So now something I want to mention, there's a lot of tools out there. All right. So if you talk to instructional designers, if you talk to your Center for Excellence folks, they're incredible resources and they're going to tag team and help you with this. Again, you're really just trying to help the biology department make those first steps. And there's a lot out there. Some are the ADDIE model. Lots of them are acronyms. Some have these phases or stages. And of course, Bloom's you see there. These are all tools, but they're tools to help discuss things. It's that you have in your toolkit to help people move forward in their decision making. So again, there's lots out there. We'll be referencing some of these in the summer course. These are some of the things we'll hopefully be familiar enough with that you're not a licensed instructional designer, but you have enough to help them go get the help they need. What is actually the issue? Uncover what the real problem is to move forward. And I'll say this, there's a lot of tools out there, but at the end of the day, we are the tools. That's quote, I have it in writing in an email in all caps from an instructional design colleague here at Virginia Tech, which I found delightful. That is really what we are. I told him it needs to be a banner hanging over their building. But that's at the end of the day, we're the ones to help start the discussion. We're the ones to ask the right questions and keep people moving. And so that's what I'm trying to help you do. So back to the case. So you should, at this point, you had this prior email. It's also in the chat. You have a quick scan of the sample intro biology syllabus. And then a quick scan, same thing. Take a quick look at that UbD template, the Understanding by Design template. If you're having trouble still getting them, I believe go up through the chat. Sherry's also posted them other ways because the sharing gets a little weird. And what we're going to do is work together. Okay, we're going to work together to jot down some notes as we work through this. And so this is perfect. If you're a person who really likes to participate in webinars and be active in the chat, take notes, you know, the perfect student, perfect. This is for you. If you like to zone out and eat and have Netflix on the side, don't worry, this is perfect for you too. Everyone is welcome to participate in whatever style works for you. But hopefully at this point you have those two items. So let's start with the first one. Let's take a look at that syllabus. And try to identify the desired results. So what are the goals, outcomes, essential questions? What knowledge, skills should the student obtain? Right, so that's stage one of this framework. So in the chat, do you see an essential question, goal, or outcome? What would you say? So I'll say it that way because you may not see them. What would you say is an essential question, goal, or outcome of this course? If you were not talking to the professor, you're just looking at the syllabus, what would you say is an essential question, goal, or outcome? And don't get bogged down in writing the perfect verb or the perfect phrase. Throw it in the chat of what you think the goal of this course is. Good, starting to come in, good. Study of cells. Yep. You're going to study some cells. Good, yep, I saw that as well in the kind of larger text. There's this idea of connecting biology to society or to everyday life. That was kind of something in there. Knowledge of cells, knowledge of genetics. That it's an intro or kind of fundamental or foundational to build on in later courses. Okay. The really straightforward, the goal is to learn the material covered in the textbook chapters. Yep, that really inspires students, doesn't it, right off the bat? The goal is to do what's been done before. Yeah, learn the content presented. So I love that. Learn the content. Thank you, Lisa. Presented by the professor and textbook. So all the knowledge and authority and all that, it's all in the professor and textbook. Your job, open that brain, and we're going to put it in there. And then, but you're exactly right. So I see lots of good responses there. And not that they're wrong. These may be the course goals. These may be the essential questions. Learn this content, right? All right, so stage two. What would it look like for a student to have reached the goals? So let's look at the evidence. How will I know to what extent they have mastered the skills? So in the chat, what piece of evidence is used to assess outcome mastery? So looking at that syllabus, how will we know they've met those goals and outcomes we listed? They'll get good scores on the exams. Yep. So there's exams. Oops, sorry. There's exams, and we will evaluate them. Yep. And I want to be clear, none of this is wrong yet. None of this is wrong fundamentally. The syllabus is, so far, I see some alignment. Know stuff about cells and genetics and biology, fundamental concepts, and we're going to test you on it. And it's based on these chapters. So far, the alignment's pretty good. The outcomes, they weren't clear, they weren't explicit, but pretty close. Yep, so there's lecture exams and a final exam. Yep. There's some examples, there's some labs. Yes, there appear to be labs, question mark. They're kind of thrown in. Yes, there seems to be labs. This was a common critique when I went through and remains to this day, depending. We have some great folks, I'm sure you do on your campus as well, that align them really nicely. where the lecture and lab can really support each other and complement and move together to reinforce concepts. Sometimes it's, I go to lecture, I go to lab, never the two shall meet. But so this is a tool to help them. What do you, so that's stage 2. We've got some evidence. Stage 3, what are some learning experiences? So take a look at that syllabus. What activities should the students, what activities are the students participating in? How are they learning this stuff? Just by what you see on the syllabus. So first, what do you see on the syllabus that students are doing to learn this stuff? Discussions, reading exercises. Yep, exercises came up. So practice things, these kind of probably book exercise activities. Yep, there seems to be lectures, lab, do the exercises. So far this, again, the alignment's there. It doesn't sound like, you know, maybe there's better ways of doing some of these things, but at the end of the day, if the topics are covered, the exams are in alignment, we see that the course, their students are doing things that lead to a evidence that we then see if they got it or not. Now, the issue is they're not, obviously. They're telling them in these reviews that I'm studying, I'm going to the lectures, I'm doing the practice exercises, whatever, and I'm not doing well on the exams. So what does this uncover for us? Oops, sorry. Yeah, you already said that. So in the chat, what issues, oh, I'm having problems with my click, did the tool prompts illuminate? What issues did this illuminate for you, simply having some prompts, as opposed to the trap I set, which is jumping straight to fixing it? What issues do you think, what questions do you have that you think is really going on here to help someone move forward? What issues did this tool, did this walking through these illuminate? So one, alignment of exams to final exam. There's not a lot of variety in, I'll say, learning preferences. Us ed psych folks, it depends on who you talk to, can get crazy about learning styles literature. I just say, yeah, there's not a lot of opportunity of learning preferences, engaging the brain in different ways. It sounds like it's presented, you regurgitate it, you move on. There's certainly, I don't see, we can't assume, maybe the lectures are, you can have really good lectures, maybe they're wonderful. So I see Cindy's comment of, maybe I don't see the connection between the learning in the real world or their personal. Absolutely, that may be happening. It definitely illuminated, so Lori, thank you, that the SLOs, the outcomes and the goals aren't clear. The syllabus just jumps right into, here's the stuff and here's how you're going to be graded on it. So alignment, thank you. And thank you all for using the word alignment over and over. I appreciate that. That warms my heart. Yeah, we don't know. We just know chapter titles. We don't know if that's actually the learning objectives. Or is the learning objective, like y'all said before, know stuff about cells, learn genetics? We don't know that. My guess is it's not. My guess is the learning objectives are much more aspirational and much bigger and much more important. And then the syllabus changes that. That's the big thing, the more explicit. So transparency, explicit, being alignment, key for the students to see that. And then maybe there's a better connection that, I'm studying the wrong stuff, or, oh, I'm looking at the textbook, but all the exams come from the lecture. You know, it's the expectations are what it's all about. Good course reviews, we know that. Good end of course reviews, which every professor needs, they need to be pretty good. You know, you want them pretty good. Those, you know, those for, we call them the spot, but those end of course evaluations, you want those to be pretty good. It turns out when students know what they're getting into, those are pretty high if those expectations are met. So you can have it's not about how easy or hard the class is does it meet the expectations? Is everything in alignment? I know why I'm here. I know what we're doing. Everything seems to fit. There's a real system here. How might you use a tool like this? Where do you see the use of this? And again, I'm not going to assume this is new to you. How might you use the tool or a tool like it? How do you already use a tool like this? What is, how, you have some examples of, I use this in this work, or I can see myself using it in this way. Oh, and thank you. Yeah, I see so many good. You're ready for the course. You're ready for the advanced webinar on, give students agency. Don't worry, we can get into ungrading. What does grading do? We can get into bias, all sorts of biases that happen. But how might you use this tool? Oh, yeah. And like good assessment folks, we're already jumping to, I can see some faculty being resistant. Yes, you can assume that. But we're asking questions. We're just giving prompts, and then we're helping them uncover. Now, they have to be a willing participant in that, as we know. Otherwise, if it's kind of like some just want the 5-year review to be over and they go, see you in 5 years. But it's really for the one who is asking, what do I do? What do I do next? So yes, you're exactly right. But usually, especially STEM folks, they love a good framework. They love a good spreadsheet. Give it to them in a spreadsheet with do some good outcome mapping. We'll do that in the course. That kind of stuff, man, it goes far to help uncover for them the issues that they may not have known were going on. Yeah, that's really what it's about, is educating. It's helping faculty see what teaching and learning really is about. You start with the outcomes and goals and expectations and work backwards from there. So what might you do next to support the biology department? So just think on that. You don't have to post that. The idea of, so if they ask that question, what might we do next, right? That's kind of the takeaway here. So what I want to do is take a few minutes to kind of tie this up. Again, this is a crash course using one tool. There's plenty of tools out there. We're going to have a course starting in July, which is assessment. It's basically, we're going to build and dive deep on all of this. And it's starting in July. There's you can register now. So Sherry will provide that soon. But these are the kind of, I've themed the course design around these types of feedback. So that one was very course level, but you get a lot of program level things. So the person comes up to you from the sociology department and goes, students leave the intro course unprepared for the next course in the sequence. What do we do? You're automatically going to, well, here's some of the issues that are probably happening, but we're going to talk about tools and mapping and some curricular things, again, to help you have a stronger toolbox to help them at the program level. Some students enter the course well prepared, whereas others are way behind. So I remember the comment in the chat thinking about, well, what's the prereqs? Where are these students coming from? Where do you start the course? And what are the expectations on day one? These are the kind of questions we can ask, and a tool can help us do that. Students consistently complain that X is disconnected from the rest of the program. And probably that professor is disconnected from the rest of the program. That's often the case. It's kind of like, what the heck is that course doing over there? It's kind of on an island. Since Y professor retired, should we keep offering that course? This is great program level things. It's not about that course, because we don't know, is it necessary or not? That's where good program level questions come out going, well, what are the program outcomes? And then let's work backwards to thinking about what courses or experiences or co-curricular, whatever can help lead to meeting those outcomes. And then some, like that last one you always see, is there's this advisory board and they want to see students develop more teamwork and professional communication skills. Of course. Should that happen in one course? Should it be in the beginning course and the capstone? Is it spread across all the courses? These are the kind of things I hope to provide you in the course, that there's tools out there to help do that. Exactly right. If we just look inside, we go, well, Stephen likes teaching biology 101, or he likes teaching that genetics course. Well, so genetics is important. They need genetics. Let's step back, and suddenly stakeholders, employers, your alumni board step back and go, it's not just about genetics, it's about blank. And now we're getting to bigger essential questions, not learned cells, but bigger essential questions. How does life work and operate? How is the structure of life built? And then you can also have some course unit ones. So we did one today that was kind of at that course unit level. And then there's also things where they're just going, our students are not engaged in the material. They're dropping it. They're leaving the course because they're just not getting it. Let's ask some questions and prompts and help them uncover what that really means. The classic, I got to cover all of this. I call cover the C word. Covering means you're working hard. It means you're presenting. It doesn't mean any learning's happening. Could be, but it doesn't guarantee that. And so things like that pop up. Well, let's step back and look at the class first and think about, why are you rushing? What has to be covered? Instead, what needs to be learned, and how best can we lay that out to do that? Students really struggle when we get to the such and such unit. So again, that's kind of like what we did today. There's a unit that's really bogging them down. Let's step back at the objectives and then also think about how that unit fits into the bigger picture. Is it that the unit's too short? Is it that is it necessary? All sorts of good things. And then finally, that they need to develop more awareness and experience with professional ethics in wide course. Maybe it's the capstone course, a professional course. How do we integrate that? And so this is where some good curriculum mapping skills, some good instructional design skills can really help. And today kind of meant to do that, which is first helping people see what the goals are and then work from there. So some summer reading lists, some of the things I'll be pulling from for this course, and some I highly recommend. Small Teaching by James Lang. Some of you mentioned some of these in the chat at the trap I set. How can we help students with tiny little things? So exit slips was an example I called. With very little things, little time, little effort can really make a big difference on learning. That's a great book. And then the Flower Darby and James Lang put together one that was online. It happened right before last year and really took off. Classroom Instruction That Works is a classic. Relationship Rich Education is a new one. We actually had that author, Peter Felton, with us recently on campus. And it's just such a great look at, hold on, before we even start looking at the syllabus and the chapters, you know what's most important to students? Relationships and who they get to know and the connection they feel. How do we get more of that in classrooms? And How Humans Learn. If you want to know about learning, Eiler's book's just terrific. Mixes the brain, but it's mostly, it's about learning, more ed psych. And then if you really want to go deep, you can start getting into, what if we threw grades out? So that's not what you respond to the biology professor on day one of, what do we do about this? That's for your own push to see just how far, just how helpful can you be? Just how deep does your toolkit go? This, I'm not going to go through this. First, this is what I think of when I think of alignment. I love Calvin and Hobbes. F, it seems to me that if I'm not learning this material, you must not be a very good teacher. We get a lot of that on end of course evals and these surveys and assessments. You go, that's not quite how it works, but I'm also not going to discount Calvin. That grade a proper evaluation of what he should be learning, and et cetera, et cetera. So it brings up some good questions. But this is being recorded, so you're going to be left with this. You can review this after. This is, to me, the things to keep in mind. If you keep these things in mind, you're set. So I'm not going to spend time with these, but you're going to be left with this as my gift to you. The course that we get into the summer is going to be hitting a lot of these, and we're actually going to unpack some of the reasoning behind it and do all of these very interactive. But the idea of, as you see, number 10, transparency, communication, alignment leads to less grumpy students. I believe that came up in the chat, thinking about that's what's so important. And that last one, so learning opportunities can be designed, but it's not guaranteed. So all we can do is the best we can with what we have and what we know and what the data tells us, and try to make improvements from there. So you'll get these. I apologize for moving quickly, but you will have these afterwards. So what are your final questions for me? I think I need to hit Q&A. Okay, good. Some have been answered. What are your final questions for me? And then there's my email address. I hope you'll reach out to me. Follow me on Twitter. I just do a lot of higher ed discussion. I do a lot of higher ed Twitter. But please email me if you have follow-up questions. I love to connect. Any questions for the group? Sherry?
Yeah, so thanks so much. So I'm going to man the Q&A here for just a couple of minutes, and comments are welcome as well in the chat still, but I really appreciate that. So I'm also a former ed psych teacher and former K-12 educator. And one of the things that I try to remind folks of often is that the folks who are in your teacher prep program on your campus are a really good resource for the rest of the people on campus, because we kind of grew up living and breathing this stuff. So here is a question in the Q&A. I'll read this out for everyone's benefit. What resources would you recommend that help teachers link their learning outcomes to an assessment type? So in other words, best practice, best assignments for each Bloom's taxonomy verb? So that's a great question. And I have seen tools like that before. Maybe you've got something handy or.
Yeah, that's what so the understanding by design has that with the unit, because once you go beyond that, you get I'm picturing a spreadsheet. I apologize. And I have these, they're out there, and we're going to do some of these in the course, but it's basically learning outcomes in column 1. And then you get to, and you unpack that verb and you start to think about what this looks like. And then you get to column 2 with, okay, now what do I do? I would say the Diamond book is very good for that. So I'm sorry, so the Diamond book, it may be backwards. I apologize. Designing and assessing courses and curricula. Great. It's backwards to me. It's good for you. That's a great book, and it gets into exactly what you're talking about. And we'll do some of these in the course, but it gets at the level of, okay, I know what I should be doing. What are some examples? Should I be using exit slip? Should I be using formative? Should I be using summative? It kind of leads you down that thought tree. And some of those are out there. Another is just reading books like Small Teaching, reading books like How Humans Learn starts to really give you that toolkit of what's good teaching and learning look like, so that you know when the verb comes up, synthesize. What assessment can do synthesize? Well, I know it can't do it. And then, okay, I'm taking an argument, I'm synthesizing different, what would that look like? And it kind of takes you through that. So I really love it. I don't want to just try to push a bunch of books on you, but my shelf is full of a lot of those. The How to Teach Classroom Instruction That Works, those key, the Diamond book, the Understanding by Design book, and then just Googling, a lot of Googling will get you to some really helpful. I saw some in the chat posting, some are reading lists. There's some out there as well on exactly what you're talking about, sort of good verbs and what aligns with those verbs. And I'll put in, it's by Designing and Assessing Courses and Curricula. It's by Diamond. It's the Diamond method.
There you go.
Yep,
Good.
the Diamond method. So that's a good one.
That looks like a good one. I have Shaping the College Curriculum, but I don't think it gets down to that level of the course level and aligning.
Latukin Start.
Yes.
Latukin Start's a classic curriculum, and I actually didn't pull a ton for this. I'm going to pull some for the course. It is at that bigger level. Yeah, it's at that bigger level, not down to the like, yeah, but how would I teach that? And so that's where you get to the teacher books like Small Teaching, I think is a great example of that.
Good. Terry Wallace is saying, what was the name of the book again? So one more time.
Yep. Designing and Assessing Courses and Curricula.
And that'll be captured in the recording too. So Terry, when you get the recording, you can just, fast forward to the end. Understanding by Design by Wiggins and McTeague.
Wiggins and McTeague, yep.
And here's another question that came up in the chat, not in the Q&A. So I'll read this one off. What top 3 interventions or strategies do you find yourself using most when helping faculty and departments use results to improve? Good
question. Yeah, I think the step back, this first step to me is way before the down in the weeds. So when you're saying strategy or intervention, yes, you could get to, you need better study guides, or yes, you could get to maybe your final exam is a little too, it's not well aligned with your lectures or something like that. I find the most it's that step back of going, what are you trying to accomplish? Again, think like an assessor. That step is so important to go, no. Before you start trying to fix something small, like how can I make this day, this unit, this whatever chapter better? What are you trying to accomplish on the big picture? What are the goals? What are the expectations of this course, and how will you know? So that's why I went straight to that Understanding by Design, because I've just found that's how I think now whenever I'm talking to someone, because I want to jump straight to step 3. I love teaching and learning. I study it. There's a million formative assessments and assessments and activities out there. But before you get to that, it's really about what are you trying to accomplish? And then getting in connection with the person who is actually teaching the course. That's often, you're running kind of intermediate. Sometimes it's tough. I really care about supporting and working directly with the person who's going to teach that course. Because if they don't get the alignment, or if they don't get what's trying to accomplish, it's not, even if the syllabus looks really good, the students aren't going to see those results. So I think that's usually what I'm trying to do, is uncover and go, all right, hold on, what are you trying to accomplish? What's this course trying to accomplish? and who's teaching that, and then connecting there. And so that's not exactly what you asked, but I'd say before getting to strategies and things, it's that I mentioned more. The thing I say most lately, especially with moving to online, more small assessments better than less large assessment. I'm finding I'm saying that a lot, and I think that's good practice in general. More formative assessment more often, better than the classic 2 quizzes and a test, and that's it. I'm finding I'm saying that a lot, and could have been saying it a lot more before.
That's great. And I'll just chime in and say, for me, getting faculty to think about that first question, which is, what's the essential question? What's the big picture that you're trying to get your students to understand by the end of this course? Everything else trickles down from there, but until a lot of faculty haven't even thought in those terms yet, and that's a great conversation starter. So so we have a couple of housekeeping things here at the end, and we appreciate all the questions. I think we had one more pop up in the chat, and maybe we can get to that one before the end, but I think we've got a couple of slides here with some Weave information. If you'd like more information about Weave, we're always happy to provide that. You all have my contact information through the webinar, so I will leave that with you if you're interested. And then I think that next slide, or is there one further back? Maybe we could just go back to the one about the Weave Academy real quickly. So I'll just mention that we have several courses and workshops over the summer. Summer is sometimes a great time to dive in deeper. We do have Introduction to Effective Assessment Practice, a new class starting in 2 weeks. I've got just 1 seat left in there. So if you're interested, contact me right away. And then we are starting the registration for this learning improvement course, which is a new Weave Academy course. It's going to be really dynamic. If you liked this presentation today, let me know. And I think that's going to fill up fast. So if you're interested, contact me right away. The other things that you see on here are things that we're doing some enrollment for now. So if you know you're interested, let me know. I've still got a few empty seats there, but we are really excited about having Stephen working with the Weave Knowledge Center and Weave Academy, and look forward to seeing some of you in the classes later this summer. And you're getting some more VT shout outs there. So that's great. So we've got just like 2 minutes left. I know some people are dropping off, and that's great, but I'm going to scroll back up and try and find this question that we didn't get to. Laura McDowell said, what about factors beyond control of faculty that inhibit deliberate design of learning? And so I'm not exactly sure what she's referencing, but.
Oh, no, completely. Oh, do I have a second to answer?
Yeah,
I answered a little in the.
Perfect.
That's a great question. We can't start there. And that's one of the hardest, is to go, well, I have a large lecture, so there's no way I can do it. That stage 3 is the planning activities. And so you first have to go, what are we trying to accomplish? What are the essential understandings? What do we want them to learn? Then stage 3 is what's possible to do in the environment I'm limited to, which could be the size of the class. It could be that it's online versus face-to-face. It could be that they're all first-year students or they're all seniors. That's going to come into play at stage 3, and they should, because otherwise you end up setting students up for failure, because we're trying to do these group projects and there's 300 students. That is possible. I work with a geosciences professor that does that, but it took iterations first and some scaffolding to get to that point. You can't just jump to that. And so you recognize the limitations, but much later than what folks want to do, which is step 1. No, sorry, it's an 8 a.m. so there's no way I can do anything fun. It's like, no, first is let's figure out what you're trying to accomplish. And so I think you're exactly right. Those limitations have to come out. They have to be talked about, but they may not be as restricting as you think. You may have some more flexibility, and you may be able to, there's actually great large class. We offer a little conference, large class teaching. There's lots of good things out there. We just got to find them, but you don't start there. So that helps a little.
Great. Thanks for taking the time to answer that one bonus question.
Bonus question.
And with that, we're right up to the end of the hour. And Stephen, thank you so much for talking with all of us today. It was a really engaging and fun webinar, and I'm sure that we'll have a lot of folks inquiring about the course going forward. So thank you all for joining us for our webinar, and look for information on some new webinars and workshops and courses in the fall as well. Have a great afternoon, everyone.